What's up, everybody? Welcome. Time for a little Overreaction Monday right here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Anwar Richardson. This show is brought to you by Rogue Shop. Go to rogueshop.com, use that promo code Orange Bloods, and make your life a little bit better. Check out the cards, check out the gummies, check out all the various products that help you, your parents, your dogs, whatever you might need. They've got a little bit of everything. It's quality of life. Go to the website, check it out. We're talking Texas football today. I asked Anwar this morning, besides, how are you? You doing good? Good weekend?
Yeah, I had a really good weekend. I got a chance to spend time with the kids this weekend. Basketball for the little one on Saturday. Max had a game on Sunday versus Austin FC Academy. So it was good. It was a good weekend.
You reminded me of Austin FC in your column. I was like, oh, that's happening. That's going to be soon. It's 3 weeks.
Yes.
It's 3 weeks. I was like, hadn't even thought about it, and it was good. I needed a reminder. So, look, I asked Anwar this morning, any ideas for Overreaction Monday? And he had a bunch.
Because I thought I had some good ones, actually.
You did. And I'll be honest, some of them were really good, and I just thought, man, I wrote kind of a Steve Sarkisian needs to, pick it up on offense yet last night. If I did that this morning, people would be like, oh, you hate Sark. And it's like, oh, goddamn. It's weird. I thought about it. I hated Sam Ehlinger. I hated Quinn Ewers. I hated Tom Herman. I hate Steve Sarkisian. It's like, everybody, I just want people to be good. That's all I want. Or actually better than good, if I'm being completely transparent. So I was like, I don't want to be negative. I was like, but I think I have a positive, an extremely sunshine-filled, positive, hot take on a Monday that can just get us started, and then we'll go wherever we want to go from there. But okay. I had somebody on Orange Bloods earlier today. By the way, check out the website. A buck will give you a glance, and you can see what the fuss is all about. Someone said, hey, I guess the A&M site on 24/7 did an article where it listed all of the Pro Football Focus season grades on all of their commitments from the portal.
Okay.
Someone said, has anybody have that information, and or can you guys do it? And I was like, screw it, I'll do it. So I did it. It was pretty interesting. One of the things that came out of it was that Michigan State tight end Michael Masunas had a higher PFF season grade than Cam Coleman did.
Okay.
And so it made for I was like, you know what? This is a layup from a tease on the message board standpoint. Who wouldn't want to click on Michael Masunas is rated higher than Cam Coleman, ? And then the response to that from a few people, and I think there are a lot of Texas fans watching this video, Texas fans that are on Orange Bloods, that don't quite understand what Texas has in Cam Coleman. I think they're looking at the numbers and they're saying, wait a minute, that guy didn't even make first team that guy didn't even make all SEC last year. Ryan Wingo did. Why is that guy a first round draft pick? Why is that guy the most expensive player in college football, non-quarterback division in the portal? And I get it. I mean, these are some fair questions. He has not yet produced like a superstar. But my hot take, I think he's the most physically gifted and talented wide receiver I have ever seen play in a Texas uniform. The only guy that Roy Williams is the only guy that's in that discussion. I mean, he was a state champion long jumper, a sub 10,500 meters guy. He's kind of freakish athletically, but I don't always know that Roy's football functional athletic ability. He was a guy that could high point a ball, but he wasn't a guy that would just, I don't know. He just wasn't as fluid as an actual football player on the field as I think this guy is. Onward, I think Texas fans are going to be blown away the first time they see Cam Coleman play in a Texas uniform I think he's really freaky. And I think he's played with terrible quarterbacks on a team coached by bad head coaching. And I think he's Alabama level tool for Steve Sarkisian and his quarterback to work with. And I think getting to watch Cam Coleman this season is, I think, going to be even more exciting than watching Arch Manning. I really think we are talking about, for one season and one season only, this guy's going to be a stud in the NFL. Like, we're going to watch, we have an actual treat that Texas is going to give us. And I think it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun to watch Arch Manning throw that guy the football. But I think when this season's over with, people will have come around to my view on this. I think right now it might sound like crazy talk to put this guy even over Roy. I'm convinced of it, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think he clearly, it's one of those things that we can look at the grades, and there's nothing against the PFF or anything to that effect. I have no issues with them. Only Alex does, quite honest with you. But it's one of those things that, what do your lying eyes tell you? And when your eyes look at him and you watch the film on him, your eyes tell you that guy's a stud. Like, you don't worry about those numbers or someone's grade or anything like that. It's just bona fide stud. And I think the difference, between him and somebody even says, like, they're mentioning Xavier in the chat. Xavier was never viewed as you've got to shut this guy down or else. Like, there's going to be hell to pay. Like, Xavier was good. Like, don't get me wrong, but I don't think we ever looked at a game plan as like, man, that guy, if he gets 8 targets this week, 10 targets, like Texas he's going to take the roof off. We never viewed him like that.
Because part of that is there's some limitations with the way that, like, Xavier Worthy has a super skill, right? He's one of the fastest humans, like, that you could possibly see in person. There's not, other than some Olympic sprinters, like, there's not many guys that are covering 40 yards as fast as he is. 100 yards, sure, you change the dynamics, but like in a short area, it doesn't get much faster than what he is. But I think about I think it's the opening play of the NFL season this year. Did you see? I think it was a Chiefs game. Mm-hmm. I think they opened the year, and he collided with Travis Kelce on the first play of the game. Did you see? Did you see?
No, I didn't.
They collided on, like, crossing routes, and, like, Travis Kelce broke Xavier Worthy. Like, that was it. First play of the game, they ran into each other, and Xavier Worthy broke. Mm-hmm. And, like, that's part of the deal when you weigh 165 pounds. The thing about this guy that makes him, I think, very similar to a guy like Roy Williams, he's a big dude. Like, it is, it's that he comes with that size, but has such a ridiculous array of ball skills and leaping ability, and his functionality with his athletic ability, that his ability to make his athletic ability work for him in a football setting is kind of freaky, man. Like, that, maybe the thing about playing with Auburn quarterbacks is that it allowed him to show off his array of skills, because that guy is catching the football away from his body in ways that just most people on earth can't do. He's in the air. The ball is, you think about what his catch radius is. He's at the absolute end of it, snatching balls away from guys. Arch Manning hasn't had anybody like this. And I think that one of the things about last year that was frustrating is that we went into the year and we were saying to ourselves, man, they really went out of their way to make sure Quinn Ewers had some toys. If Quinn failed, it was not because they didn't put some NFL dudes on the field at tight end, wide receiver, you name it, he had it. They went into this year, they didn't do any of that on purpose. And none of those freshmen were ready to play. They paid Ryan Wingo wide receiver 1 money, but he didn't really start playing like a wide receiver 1 until maybe the last 4 or 5 games of the season. Really wasn't that guy in the first half of the season for sure. First 7 games. So one of the things that you and I, as the Cam Coleman thing started to pop up, was, are they really going to let Arch Manning come through Austin and not give him a toy? Like, dude, just like Quinn Ewers, you have no excuses. Are they going to give him enough talent to work with that there should be no excuses? Last year, excuses. This year, Arch has got some dudes now, and he's got the best 1-2 punch in the SEC in Cam Coleman and Ryan Wingo. To be fair, Ryan Wingo was second team all SEC, and Cam Coleman wasn't. I don't know about this offensive line, and I don't know what it means that they're an injury away from having a problem there. And I don't exactly know what all the trickle-down effect is. But we do have to stop talking about the offense as if not having NFL players all over the field elsewhere doesn't make a big difference. Texas has an NFL quarterback who's starting to reach his comfort zone. They've got 2 NFL wide receivers that nobody else can claim to have better guys than that. They just can't. They've got a tight end that's apparently better than Cam Coleman. They've got running backs that were both all conference. They've done the thing now. I can't wait to see what this offense looks like. And I just almost pray. I'm not at the point where I'm actually praying about this because, other things and stuff. But, hey, man, can we get a fun and dangerous and exciting Texas offense? I just can't figure out why, with all of these pieces, it shouldn't be showtime on Saturdays in Austin.
Yeah, it's interesting because, last year they took a break from what had worked really well for them, which was we're going to get some badass receivers out the portal and add in some tools where you talk about the Isaiah Bond, you talk about the Adonai Mitchell that came there. Technically, Xavier Worthy was a transfer. Like, technically, he transferred in,
People
right?
want to nitpick that all the time, but, he was a Michigan athlete.
Yes. They had that. You even Silas Bolden on the special teams, right? Matthew Golden, right? So you look at some of the best receivers that Sark has had since he's been here. Just about every one of those guys transferred from somewhere else. I don't know if it's really hard. Ryan Wingo might be the best out of all the quote unquote homegrown guys. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Jordan.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that they recruited because Jordan Whittington was a
he was a Herman guy.
So I'm not saying
Worthy and Wingo are the only 2 that they've developed, but who cares? To me, they get credit for Golden, who they absolutely should get credit for, but you know what I mean? They get credit
because Golden didn't leave there as a first-round pick. If Golden thought he'd be a first-round pick, he's not coming to Texas, right? He's good, right? So, and they went away from that strategy, and they said, all right, cool. It was a weird thing because you're not questioning. It's like, wait, so Arch's first year, you're actually going to say we're just going to give you the homegrown guys? And what we saw is that the strategy didn't work.
They really messed up with the idea of putting all that money into freshmen and not directing it towards a proven commodity. Imagine this offense with a Mario Craver or or an Eric Singleton, who, if that kid visits last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
He does, but Texas is like, we're not going to spend money on that. Or Zachariah Branch, right?
Yeah.
If Texas had been like, we're getting us a dude for Arch, F it.
Yes.
This season is different, I think.
The season's different. And we know the offensive line, they stayed put, and they kind of stayed put on a lot of key areas. And then we saw the opposite of them saying, and to their credit, to hell with that. We're not going to do that again.
Yeah.
So to their credit, they said, all right, that we tried that. We are not going to waste money on these freshmen like this again. We're going to go out and get proven commodities. And we saw strategically, right? They're like, you know what? We'll take 500 from here. We'll take this guy's 600 here. We'll take this guy's 300. Here's 1 point, whatever. Now we'll give it to this guy, right? And strategically, and now, and what they did is the thing that needed to happen last year, but at least it's happening now, which is Arch Manning's coming through. You need to give him a bona fide bad mamma jamma kind of receiver, and that's what Cam is. And to your point, yes, running backs are better. The tight end might be better than what they've had before.
We're not blaming Brandon Harris if Arch doesn't play well this season.
No.
Brandon, and we did last year. It was like, well, they didn't get him enough help. We're literally having that conversation, but the support staff has done their part. They really have. And
look, to their whatever it's worth, they did try to get offensive linemen. It's not like they said we're not going to go after anybody. Like, they tried. It just didn't work for various reasons. But you go out, and I think, and look, this is my overreaction Monday. It kind of goes into a little bit what I said. Like, 2026 has to be the year, Catch. Because I know we're in February. Golly, can you believe that? We're in February of this year. And no one wants to have a conversation about 2027. 2027, I don't even want to talk about, because all these dudes are going to the NFL, and 2027 looks like a massive rebuild. So I don't even want to go there at this moment. So that's why getting a guy like Cam Coleman is so important with Arch, to pair him up and say, like, yes, we've got you a bona fide future first-round pick paired up with Ryan Wingo, who's a future NFL draft pick. And now go out there and do the damn thing.
Yeah. I mean, we had a super chat here from P. Miller, $5. P. Miller, thank you, by the way. Happy Monday to you. Hope things are well. Hope you had a good weekend. What was the last time Texas had offensive potential like they do in 2026? I know 23 and 24 had potential, but the season didn't play out as expected. P. Miller, both of those offenses are pretty stacked. I can't be dismissed. When was the last time? 23 and 24. 2 seasons they made the playoffs in, by the way. That's 23 teams got two high, a first round pick and a second round pick at receiver before Jonathan Brooks gets hurt.
Yeah.
They've got the best, most talented running back in college football, apparently, in the backfield. Jatavian Sanders, Kelvin Banks. You just had a Quinn Ewers that was still a little inconsistent and injured at times, but the pieces were there.
You had a backup tight end who got drafted, Gunnar Helm.
Well, and the 23 offense was really good. That's Sark's best offense.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. It dipped the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And I look at 24. 24, they've got Jaden Blue at running back, so they're not quite as good as they were in 23 if everybody's healthy, because CJ Baxter's kind of a wash. But Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden isn't quite. I don't think Mitchell and Worthy, if you're asking me, but it's close when both of those guys are healthy. We didn't get Bond that for much half the season. Hellman Sanders was kind of a push. And the offensive line, whatever we want to say about it, is the best offensive line that Texas has had since 2006. Maybe that's faint praise, but it is that. It was that. It had a first-round draft pick left tackle. We can't be so dismissive of it just because Georgia and Ohio State showed them the back of their hands. I would say 23. And then but if you're going beyond that, now you got to go a ways. Because it's not like this team's been dripping with that much talent. Since Onwar's been here and since 2014, we just use that as a starting moment. That's it. There's no other. Tom Herman's offenses were never this talented, with all due respect to offenses that were pretty good. And to be fair, from a points per game standpoint, were more standout than Sarkisian's in the last 3 seasons or so. That's the thing that's got to change. They've got more talent. They really do now need to perform offensively like a top 10 Nobody needs to get crazy. They don't need to lead the country in scoring next year. Be top 10. If Texas is in the top 10 in scoring next year, I think they win a national championship.
Mm-hmm.
That means they're probably averaging close to 40 points a game. I don't know if that means they win the last game, but if they had a top 10 offense this year, they might not have finished the season with a loss. I don't think people understand the difference between, this year I think they were 41st in the country in scoring. I have to look at my column. I can't remember. I think the year before that, maybe 29th. Pretty good. But I also don't think by the time you get to the 20s and you're counting the offenses, you're like, 20-something out of 130 sounds really good until you realize you're like, but do we really want to compare ourselves to Baylor or North Texas? You start looking at it like, how many of the big boy programs are ahead of you? And when you look at it and you do the count and you go, well, there shouldn't be 18 to 20 schools ranked ahead of Texas in offense, in key offensive categories. And
hold on, I'm doing some research as you're talking, right?
Yes.
Is Xavier Worthy and is Xavier Worthy the only 1,000-yard receiver Sark has had since he's been here?
Did Golden not hit it last year?
He was short of that.
Well, then he's the only guy.
I'm going back in all the archives here.
But those 1,000-yard Texas has only had a handful of 1,000-yard seasons in its history.
Yeah, I'm just as you're talking, I'm just going and looking through it, and yeah, Golden. It's 987, right? So I'm not. He's knocking on the door.
You had Devin Duvernay did it. John Harris did it in the rare. Where the hell did he come from out of his senior year, out of just nothing? And then he had a tremendous senior season.
Little Jordan Humphrey hit in 2018. Yep. He got 1170. I can't read my hand right.
Then you have to go back to Jordan Shipley. Like I said, it is in the history of the program. It's not like the running back numbers where it's like, you kind of do. Sometimes you can get two of those in a season. It's been tougher sledding on the wide. And I think this is a year where they could have a pair of 1,000-yard wide receivers, in part because if they're as good as they can be, we're talking about a team that's going to play in 15 or 16 games this season.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't get to the finish line of 1,000 yards the way Trey Wisner did. Trey Wisner was literally not good for a big chunk of the season, but then he got kind of hot. And then it was like, he was like the little engine that could. Remember we were like, Sark's not going to get his 1,000-yard running back this year. Yeah. And then a couple of weeks went by and we were like, if they play 5 more games, and by the end of it, like he cleared that mark and Sark got to pump his fist. And it's a damn shame that he worked that hard to keep that streak alive in 2024, to get it at the end with Wisner, only to lose it the next year and lose it in a big, big way.
Like not even close.
Not even played 20 games and they weren't going to have 1,000-yard running back.
No. So it's interesting. I was just going through, man. I was like, man. So that also is pretty significant as we have these conversations about Cam Coleman, right? We start talking about guys who weren't the best in the program. This stat-wise, just if he gets 1,200, 1,300 yards, if that would automatically put him in rare air as relates to anything, Texas related, because that's just something that's not a plateau that this program really hits, which is kind of crazy in many ways, It's kind of odd, especially now when you have more games. So it's that part is really odd.
I'm curious to see what Cam Coleman does with a receiver that can hit him in the hands. Because one of the things that I looked up some stats of his, and his yards after the catch, terrible. 2.6 yards per catch. Like after the catch, that was it. But when you watch his film at Auburn, you understand why. It's a lot of him having to jump up in the air and catch stuff in traffic and then coming down to the ground. rarely did they get him on the move. I mean, I am curious to see what his overall skill set looks like. It took Texas 2/3 of the season to stop trying to make Ryan Wingo Matthew Golden or somebody else, and they just well, how do we get the ball to Ryan Wingo? Well, every game we're going to open it up and we're just going to throw it to him out in the flat. First play every game, we're just going to start doing that. And we might do that 2 or 3 times in a game now, and we'll do some little end around. Like they just started making it easy on him. And the thing that Texas didn't have when Wingo started to get cooking was that Livingston wasn't consistent enough and DeAndre Moore wasn't consistent enough to really make the passing game open up the way that it can when you've got a guy that can beat teams with short stuff, and teams have to focus on that. In theory, on paper, if you've got a guy that can get down the field, he should get some matchups. Somebody's got to get something that they like.
Yeah.
Either Ryan Wingo's going to be getting the ball more in space with a little bit less attention his way, or Cam Coleman's not going to get quadruple team next year. And I think that Coleman's a guy. You really just hope that Coleman and Manning can find a connection early.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't want, if it takes 8 or 9 games for them to figure it out, for Sark to figure it out, like how do I get the ball to Cam Coleman? And if it takes 9 games to get there, maybe it's okay still, or maybe you've got 2 losses and like you're on a knife's edge, because one of the things that Sark would say prior to this year is one of the reasons why you worry about the portal is it's not as easy as add players instant team, that it takes a little bit more work to get in unison. It's weird, though, how some teams have no issues with that. And I think that really, if you're a coach that can't make it work in the portal in 2026, like if your motto is it's hard to do this, and I'm best doing it another way. Isn't that is a little bit like when Jerry Maguire sent the memo to everybody in Jerry Maguire? And the moment he sent a memo to an agency saying we should make less money and just care about people more.
Yeah.
The moment that you're doing that, you kind of gave up the game a little bit. Kind of the same thing in that, things we have to say out loud to get to that point. I don't know.
No, I mean, look, you got to make it work. Right, there is no. It can't be like the Ryan Wingo.
I mean, those guys don't have a job anymore, though. If you can't, start to figure out how to make the portal work in a way that those that are making it work are making it work. I don't know. Like, I'm not a coach. I don't know.
You can't spend that kind of money, Catch. You can't spend that kind of money and not make it work, though. Like that. That's the other thing. I mean, you just can't. Look, he can't be more successful with Jackson Arnold at Auburn with a staff that was fired than he is at Texas. Like that cannot happen. Like if that is the world that we're talking about, then it's a bad world.
That is the floor, right? His numbers from last year have to be the floor. What do you expect from Cam Coleman? Well, that's what he did with Jackson Arnold.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, okay, so 700 yards in the books as a minimum.
Correct.
By the way,
right.
This crossed my mind like, I don't know, 20 minutes ago, but I didn't stop talking long enough to spit it out. To give you an idea of just how drastic of an ideology change they made from last year to this year. Last year, they didn't go into the portal, in part because they had Parker Livingston. And they were like, you know what? We got Ryan Wingo on one side. We got DeAndre Moore in the slot. We believe in Parker Livingston. And they did. I'm not making fun of that. They did. He was a starter. He was a good player. But at the end of the season, Anwar, that dude was like, hey, can I get paid something? Not $1 million, but I want to get paid like I'm a starting wide receiver in the SEC. And Texas was like, yeah, dog, that's going to be a no from us. It's fascinating to think that this year, after he's proven that they were like, yeah, we don't really want to even value by you. 500,000, we're good. We're good. Whereas a year ago, and maybe it's just the money, maybe they weren't paying him anything. A year ago, they made a commitment to a guy with no track record. Yeah, we're not going to go get anybody. This year, that same guy actually put together a track record, and they were like, yeah, we're going to take our chances elsewhere. It's just fascinating what they did last year, that they talked themselves into. Yeah, I know that was Matthew Golden last year, but we think Livingston's got some upside.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Livingston wanted more. He wanted like another like 200,000-300,000. And, they were like, all right, we're not going to do that.
They want to pay him $500,000, bottom line.
Yeah. And look, the low-key thing as relates to Parker is Emmett Mosley was signed to take
his job.
His job. And Emmett was not able to do that initially because he was hurt. It took a while. And
Parker was the number 4 receiver at the end of the season because Mosley we had started talking about Mosley before Wingo got really hot. Is Mosley emerging as the number 1? And in the end, the answer to that was no, but he was definitely the number 2.
Correct.
And
at that point, Texas had to say, all right, and look, there was
and he's a number 4, and Khalil Lockett is the last one, right? Like he has to make it. But in the bowl game, what gave us an indication of like, you know what? Maybe that guy's going to be all right.
Yes, correct. And that's the thing, at the end of the day, as it relates to Parker, they had to, it's business. It was a business decision as it relates to that. And there was not enough. There just wasn't enough firepower. And it definitely wasn't enough of even though Cam Cole's not a vertical threat, it just didn't have enough firepower, right? The thing with Ryan Wingo that they found was basically those screen passes that worked really well to, just get him the ball and just let him do what he does as his athletic, stuff takes over. But, we weren't necessarily, it's not a knock on Ryan. We weren't necessarily praising him, just like, look at that precise route running, him getting open 20 yards down the field kind of thing. It was more so just get him ball in short space and just let it happen. I think Sark figured it out. It's like, all right, man, this is what works, right?
I'm asking him to catch the ball too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, can we need to throw it to him so he can catch it in his body.
Yeah.
We get him down the field. He's got to catch the ball out. That's when he gets into trouble.
Yeah. Correct. Sark was like, listen, to Sark's credit, he's like, look, until these teams stop this screen, like this bubble screen, like I'm just going to keep doing it. It was the first play of, for weeks, but it was that was the go-to. But Sark understands he needs more in his arsenal than that. Like he's got to have a guy like Cam who can, create that space. You got Cam on one side who can do his thing. It takes a little bit more pressure off of Ryan Wingo as that number 1 guy. You bump Mosley inside. And now Sark's like, okay, I got stuff to work with. I got, I can call my plays. It's interesting when you looked at the drop stuff. I felt like it was tons of drops, but maybe just over, we're just a little dramatic in the moment. I feel like Sark could say like, hey, I got guys.
The rates weren't good, Anwar.
Yeah. It was bad. It was a bad year. Like, because and this is one of those things where you can see how Sark could sometimes get frustrated because you can say, well, Sark, what about the offense? And you're like, did you see the guys who dropped those passes? How many times were they open? Or, in the early part of the year, it was just always it was nothing ever worked, right? Because then early part of the year, Arch wasn't fresh. Arch was not that good. So then sometimes you would have guys open, Arch is thrown in the dirt or thrown it somewhere else. And it took to the latter.
That Ohio State game just messed him up mentally so bad. Like it is, just a reminder, young quarterbacks are going to young quarterback, man. And if Sam Darnold's about to play in the Super Bowl, and he's the seeing ghost guy.
Yes. He's known for that. That's literally on his tombstone. And yet this is where he is now.
It is. We just every time we ever deal with a young quarterback, like Diabell, one day will be. And we've now done it. We lived through Quinn and whatever Arch's career ends up being. Like when it's not beautiful early, like we just got to play the hits. We've seen Sam, we've seen them all.
Yes,
we've seen so many young quarterbacks hyped to be ready before they're actually ready. I mean, even Sam falls into that quarterback that category, right? Where it was like, we're back, except you weren't yet, and you weren't yet. You thought you were because you beat Georgia in a bowl game after you lost to Oklahoma in a Big 12 championship game. Like, you know what I would say also? I'm typically known as kind of the asshole of Texas media. I don't think it's fair, but I'm a tough grader. I mean, just a year ago, you literally said I hated Quinn Ewers. I've had people say I had someone ask me yesterday if I hated Sark. People definitely thought I hated Herman. By the end of it, they thought I hated Charlie. People thought I hated Sam. And the theme is I'm constantly
Brandon Harris.
Oh my God, catch it. Did Brandon Harris like have an affair with your wife kind of a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but the bar's really high. Like PK just lost his job because Sark's holding him to a really high bar, which I'm okay with. The bar, beating Georgia, beating Ohio State. If you don't think that's good enough, I get it. Because that's the bar. That's the bar that I'm judging everybody by. The same bar that PK got judged by with Sark, that's how I judge everybody. So typically, I'm not one of these guys that comes around like, it doesn't always sound like I'm kissing ass because I'm not always the most positive. I'm throwing all of that out there. Because when I turn around and say that I loved almost every single element of the team building approach that Texas took in the last month, to even taking into account the failed execution of the offensive line position a few times, I couldn't be more impressed. As terrible as they were a year ago, and nobody's been harder on them than I've been with regards to literally, like, what were you guys thinking? Every week I come up with a new way to think about it. Like, they really put all their eggs in Parker Livingston's basket when they wouldn't do it a year later when he was better. I think I loved what they did at quarterback. I love that they were bold at running back. Nobody else in the country was knocking on Jaden Ball's door or forced the Louisville kid into the portal.
Isaac Brown,
thank you. I wanted to call him Aaron Donald for a reason, and that clearly is not who that is. So it's better sometimes to not say anything than to say the thing that is about to come out. When they missed on their top two targets, okay, they just went and got the guy they thought was the best target available. They go get Raleigh Brown, and then they did not sit on their laurels. Yeah, they were like, you know, what's better than one Raleigh Brown? Two Raleigh Browns. Let's go get Hollywood Smothers. Nobody else in the country did that. Nobody else in the country really. You could say, well, Georgia Tech was able to get the kid from Michigan, so you know they got potentially an elite running back. But nobody got two. Nobody else got two. Texas got two. They got.
By the way, add with the Smothers thing. Hey, by the way, you don't really want to go to Alabama, do you? But I know you committed to them. But how about this?
That kid was on campus.
I mean,
registered for classes.
I mean, when you talk about aggressiveness, like that's aggressive.
That's what I'm saying. The tight end was committed almost day one, and while I don't think he's anything special, I do think he'll probably play in the NFL. And he is a good, productive, proven Big Ten player that otherwise, you know, it allows him to be safe with. And I don't know what else was at tight end that I would even nitpick tight end. Let's put the offensive line stuff on a shelf. We've committed so many shows to that. We get it. They got their number one target on the defensive tackle position and getting the only guy that's kind of a 350-pound just monster with SEC starting experience in Gefford. They got the number one running back, I think, in the portal in Rasheed Biles. They could have got a little bit more depth at linebacker. They could have got the edge player they wanted. But even in those circles, go look at the guys that Texas swung and missed on. They were in on everybody. Everybody. A year ago, it didn't feel like they were in on anybody. This year, it felt like they were in on everybody. And we focused so much on the offensive line execution that, Bo Masco is an all Big Ten cornerback. Yeah. No one even talks about him because he's like the 10th best player they signed. And so I think
at Rutgers, by the way,
I think this staff, Sark, Brandon Harris, all of the support staff, the money people, the job they did with no experience in having successfully pulled off this kind of attack. They were aggressive. They were bold. They were fearless. I was told they were never going to get outspent for Cam Coleman, and they didn't. There was, who am I forgetting? There are too many names, but there was the Damon Wilson kid.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, Texas Tech bowed out because their offer was ahead. So this idea that Texas Tech will just outspend Texas didn't happen. Tech didn't get anybody that Texas wanted, and certainly not because of money. And I don't know that on this overreaction Monday, and I get it because it comes on the heels of a really disappointing season. So nobody wants to hang the offseason championship banner anyway. Texas is above hanging a Texas A&M style offseason banner over an A+ offseason. But I nitpick the hell out of them when they don't do it right. And so when I think they kill it, and I think they did, I would really love to hear Sark peacock a little bit. Show us, how'd you guys do this? Tell us how the Cam Coleman thing went down from your perspective. Like, who was key in that? I would love to get a little bit of insight into how they operated behind the scenes, who he thinks was paramount to their success. And we know he won't say it because he won't give guys public attaboys. He doesn't want to just say out loud to the competition, these are the people that you should come hire. But I'd love to know. Like, Brandon Harris taken a lot of heat in the last 12 months. If he just did as good of a job as I think he did in January, I hope Sark gives him some love. I hope he says the next time he talks to the media, we think we've got a chance to win a national championship this year. And I don't know that we would have thought that was possible without what we just did in January. And we couldn't have done that without my general manager. It has to be okay to say that. I gotta be honest. If he doesn't, Brandon Harris got to walk. Like, not leave the job. He just has to go on strike. It's like, the money's too good. I ain't got another job lined up. But you guys to at least talk about me to somebody. I need my mom. You know what this reminds me of? It's like in the movie Rudy, when his parents show up at the game, or they don't believe he's on the team because he never is on the field in uniform. It's like, oh, you're not really on the Notre Dame team. Brandon Harris goes back to see his folks, and they're like, you're not really the general manager of the Texas program. I ain't never heard of Steve Sarkisian say your name out loud. His parents are like, you don't have a job at Texas. You're not the GM.
They probably sent some gear, though.
Be given the Rudy treatment, man.
He's probably sent some gear. I would, I would like Brandon Harris to hold press conferences like Nagy would.
Sark would literally jump off of a bridge. Because Nagy just pops up and is like, screw it, let's do it. Bring the cameras on. He does impromptu media sessions. Like, woo!
Sark's head would explode if that happened. He doesn't let his coordinators talk but once a year. So and that's about it. So
to be fair, Saban's head would explode too.
Well, that's true.
Like, and I'm guessing Kirby Smart's too. And maybe in a decade from now, if you and I are still doing Orange Bloods live YouTube shows, by the way, subscribe to the channel, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Jump into the Specs chat. Not enough super chats today. Shame on you guys. We're working hard over here. In 10 years, we may say the downfall of the traditional dinosaur head coach was that they couldn't do this thing that now needs to be done, that you have to be able. And look, Indiana just won a national championship, and their head coach does everything. So there's still some of this, but it is wild to follow Texas Tech and to have a GM who's so on the front foot by telling people how important he is, and then has a head coach that never once puts a hand up to say, okay, slow down. We're not here because of him.
Mm-hmm.
But sharing that role and that job responsibility and everything is one of the things that in 10 years from now, Sarkisian's still coaching college football. Oh, he'll be talked about the way Dabo's being talked about. These other teams, the head coach isn't even the number one hire on the campus. The GM is the most important job. And Sark's going to be like, nope, I ain't saying anybody's name. You can't force me to. I'll pay you a lot of money, but I will not compliment you at a press conference. Never. You know what? He's got to be transparent about that.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Harris is super loyal, and I doubt Brandon Harris will show up on Wednesday and be like, oh, he didn't know the deal by now. He ain't ever going to know. And I get the sense everything's working out real well back there. I just can't stress it enough. I'm known as the guy that nitpicks everything. I hate everything. I hate everybody. I did not hate how they did this offseason. They acted A++ as far as I'm concerned. They had to figure out how to close the deal on offensive linemen, whatever that is. But other than that, I feel like they did everything else at A++ levels. And if Sark did it all, then great job, Sark. If somebody else was chiefly responsible for what was happening, then super kudos to them as well. I'm being transparent. You guys will say, I'm never nice. I never say positive things. I'm telling you, the entire month of January, even when they didn't have the offensive line pieces in place the way they wanted to, I was talking about everything they were doing in incredibly positive tones. I can see what they were doing. Like, it was incredibly bold, and we'll see other schools try to do it. If Texas wins a national championship this year, the portal is going to be a massive story. People are going to look at it, and they're going to say Texas has maybe a $50 million roster this year. I don't know. I'm making that number up, but they weren't that far away from 40, allegedly, a year ago. They splashed some cash this offseason. They've gone in 2 years ago. They didn't have a player making more than $750 a year-ish, like 758-ish. Nobody was making $1 million. It was just the summer of 24. We're not even 24 months removed when Texas was still flinching over the idea of, we can't pay anybody $1 million. Can't do it. DeCorian Moore, can't do it. Now, they did it, but that was the moment he was the guy where they went, well, if we're going to get any of these guys, we're going to have to spend $1 million. For them to be in a place now where they're operating the way they're operating, it is a complete transformation of ideology. To be able to have done it at what I think is a really successful level shouldn't be underappreciated. I don't know that we will ever see anything quite like it again.
Coach, Catch, as we wrap up, Chino came in with a 10 spot. He said, hey, he's broke after the mortgage, cars, insurance. But here's a 10 spot, Catch. Hope you guys had a great weekend.
Thank you, dude. That's nice of you.
Yeah. I mean, look, we know how payday goes. Everybody else seemingly gets paid except you, right? I mean, so we understand. Like, money comes in, money comes out. So we appreciate the 10 spot.
I heard something this weekend in a movie, a line on where I'll end it on this. I want you to remember that I said this.
Okay.
And then I want you to remind me in the future in a moment when I'm not living up to it, okay? The line in the movie was, in a situation where you have a choice of being right or being kind, choose kindness. And I was like, my God, how much better would my life be if every time right before I jumped into one of those catch 'em arguments where I just won't give up, I'll barracuda my way to winning a point, if I just been like, agree to disagree. Have a blessed day. God loves you.
Always remember, Catch, takes two people to argue. One can only argue with themselves unless they have somebody else who wants to participate. So someone told me that years ago, like it takes two people to argue. I'm like, oh, that is true.
I'm telling you, moving forward, the choice is to be right, because I'm right all the time with my wife. I don't ever get me anywhere, ever. Not even an acknowledgement of being right. So being right is kind of overrated. It's like being good or being lucky. I'll take lucky, because lucky ain't never had a bad day. Good loses all the time. Lucky, you can't be lucky and lose. That's not how it works.
Maybe like when you win a fantasy championship, you're like, you're so lucky. You're like, I don't care. I don't care that Bijan ran for that many yards in the championship game. That's luck. Who cares?
I have spite shamed some fantasy champions over the years because I'm petty.
Oh yeah.
I'm just not going to be. I am eliminating as much pettiness as possible. Give Brandon Harris a raise. For myself or Onward Richardson, guys, we have a big old Monday, so we're going to move on with it. We'll be back, Chad and I, later today, or just later on the channel if you're watching this via delay or just, not live. For all that you participated in the live chat, thank you. Again, Rogue Shop, can't say it enough, they're family. And they've just been so, I don't know that Orange Bloods Live is even here in the same capacity that it is if it wasn't for the support of Rogue Shop. Support Orange Bloods through and through. They bleed orange as much as anybody I know. To Richard and Shard, everybody, you guys have a great, blessed Monday. Choose kindness. We'll see you